Alas, poor Julian. Poor Julian. He was... Well, actually, I'm not entirely sure who he was. We never got his backstory. Didn't know what his stats were, and, well, to be perfectly honest with you, he was a rather bland NPC that... Well, we only know that his name was Julian. Julian. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Campaign Creator series. My name is Guy and today's episode is sponsored by World Anvil. WorldAnvil.com, that world aggregator, campaign manager, character, Facebook heroes supporting great website has partnered with us and has brought you this episode of Campaign Creator. Now today we're looking at the all-important question of NPCs of note. NPCs of note. So unlike Julian here, we want our NPCs to be memorable. How do we do that? Well, before we jump into World Anvil's templates, which are going to help us to create those NPCs that hopefully are not like Julian, let's unpack a little bit what we expect from our NPCs in terms of which ones should we pre-generate before the game begins, as the ones that we're going to do today, or versus which ones can we hold off on and only generate a little bit later on. And to do that, we're going to look at the difference between, well, which are our perma NPCs, what are the values that they should be expressing, and we have to realize that death will come. It comes for us. It comes for us all, and there's no reason why it shouldn't come for our NPCs as well, even if we do love them. Let's jump straight into it. So perma NPCs. Perma NPCs are NPCs that are going to be around for a long time. Now, we are talking about direct contact with the PCs. These are individuals that they will come across. So whether it's the butler that will control the mansion that the PCs are going to be based out of for the next 20 detective investigation stories that they run through, or whether it's the helmsman of the starship that they are part of, whether it's the guards captain of the town that they are going to be frequenting and that particular guard captain happens to make contact with them on a regular basis. We're looking for PCs here that are likely to recur, likely to provide the party with a lot of support, a lot of interaction with the party, and basically need us to flesh them out a little bit more, and will be of benefit to do so before the campaign starts. We also need to look for NPCs that are campaign specific. So in other words, if we're looking at our Utherios campaign, which we've been designing now for the last few months, in Utherios, we need at least one or two individuals that our PCs can really hook their teeth into. Now, we've been looking at the PCs being part of the military. We've looked at them being part of the mercenary group. So an NPC that may be of benefit would be to have the grizzled old soldier, someone whom they have met before, someone whom they might work with, and someone who could A, give them advice on how to fight certain types of monsters that they're going to find in the territories, but also someone who can be there to say, you know, you really should treat the general with more respect. He is, after all, in charge of the defense of Utherios, and that makes him very important to us all. He could be a mentor type NPC. There are all sorts of things that can be there, but it's campaign specific. So it's not about creating generic priest number 53. It is about creating someone who's going to help the party understand our campaign, and as a result, they need to be integral to the campaign's success. They need to integrate integrally into the intestines of our interesting endeavors. Yes. And they need to be plotters. Now, plotters comes from my breakdown of the two different types of NPCs. Those that are fodder, that's the PCs that can just disappear and we have no care for them, no value for them, aka Julians of the world. Or they need to be plotters, where they are involved in the plot and they become involved in the plot because of these reasons here. So we need to make sure that the PC that we're going to be developing and spending time on is of value and will fulfill those criteria. Now, this is important to realize, and I think this is a big differentiator, is that we don't want to spend any more time than we absolutely need to in order to develop our campaign. We have got so much going on. We have got so much to develop that to waste time on stuff that has no value, that has and is something that you could create on the fly, it just makes more sense to delegate it to that space. I will do this when I need it rather than prepping it. So if we then look at our values, when we come to designing our NPC, we need to obviously understand the likability thing, and I'm going to talk about that when we go to the World Anvil website. But likability comes first. We have to know what those values are. So the NPC might not be someone that the PCs like. They might be an antagonist. They might be someone who is there to rile them up rather than to support them. But we need to know their likability values. That's important. Then we need to understand their status and their abilities. So our grizzled old soldier who's going to help the NPCs along, does he have any status? Does he have any standing? Could he march into a barracks of young soldiers and demand their attention and will get it? Or is he a drunkard and has been forgotten about? So we add that information in based on what they're going to be doing within the campaign. Our grizzled old soldier is quite a useful NPC for us to have in our pockets if our party are full of young, rambunctious individuals who get into trouble a lot. By having an old retired veteran in their pocket, someone who supports them because he sees something of himself in them, there are some opportunities for you as the GM to have almost get out of jail free cards. So let's give them some status. Let's give them some power. They are recognized for their great deeds, although they've also been recognized that they can no longer perform those great deeds due to their advanced age. So there's a reverence, there's a respect, but there's also an understanding that that is only used in times of crises. And then finally, the history. We'll add in a little bit of history. We can give the general a few little bits and pieces now, but we don't have to go too far. All we need to know is that the general fought in the last Great War. That will be called the War of the South, and that he led several victorious charges against superior odds and was successful. He lost many men under his command, but each and every single soldier that died, he placed a stone upon their grave and he made sure that they were buried with respect. To this day, it is rumored, he is still looking for the body of 3 young soldiers that died under his command near 10 years ago. When he finds them, he will put those stones to rest, and it is rumored that his old soul will then be at peace and he can die happy. Until such time, however, everyone suspects that he will remain alive, cantankerous and drunk, and continue to plague the city with his loud mouth singing and his determination to make sure everyone's honorable. Something like that. That is all we need. We don't need any more history than that for now. For now. It gives us something to start with. Now, death will come. Death will come. The NPC is going to die. It is going to happen. Whether it is by your hand as the GM or by the players, PC's hands, or by accident, it doesn't matter. It will happen. So that means we have to capitalize on it. Now, how do we capitalize on it? Well, we go through making sure that this NPC that we're creating, that we're investing all of this time in, has value to the PCs. There must be a relationship that has been built between our cantankerous old soldier and the PCs. Each one of them needs to have some kind of relationship with this individual. And then maybe they need to be on more than one adventure together. Perhaps the old cantankerous adventurer comes with them on their first adventure, but is too drunk to really help, so they have to do something. Then 3 adventures later, we send them on an adventure with them again, so that then now they're a bit on equal footing in terms of skill and capacity. And then maybe there's a 5th adventure where they go on together, where the old general goes, "You don't need me anymore. You're more than capable of carrying on your own affairs. I'll be in town if you need me." So that we start to see the progression. The torch has been handed over from our grizzled old NPC to the PCs. And then we kill them off in a meaningful death, because that's what we do. They're abducted by satyrs or Graveler, or Jakar, our nemesis. She gets hold of him and tortures him and threatens the PC. You know, all that kind of wonderful, wonderful stuff that we like to do with our players. So that's what I look at when I think about, do I need to make an NPC of note? Do I need to spend time busy building one? What are we going to use to do that? We're going to use World Anvil. I'm going to skip over to World Anvil there. We're on the page here. And we've got some options here. We've got character over here, or we've got the actual NPC sheet over here. The NPC sheet is more of a statting block. It's where you put in their powers, their abilities, and the like. Whereas the character block up here is more of the personal stuff. So I prefer to use the personal stuff. I don't want our hero to be just a bunch of numbers. I want to give them some values, some backstory. So here we can put in general, let's say his name is Athos Davidari. Athos Davidari. And we're going to say here retired general from the Great Southern War, makes sure to bury all his dead soldiers, is looking for three soldiers that died under his command 10 years ago, now plagues the city where the PCs start. Gipthos, I think, will be the place, providing them with insight and assistance because he sees a little of himself in them. Now we can then start to pull it through. Now remember we were talking about plodder and plotter, NPCs and villains and things. That's this template here, which World Anvil added because of this YouTube channel, as a matter of fact. So we're going to add a plotter. We're going to come in here and we've got different types of plotter. Is he a supporter? Is he a guide? Is he an advancer? He is going to act, I would say, as a mentor. So he's going to guide our PCs. He might be able to give them some insight. If we as the game master realize the PCs aren't fighting together very well or very cohesively, he could come in and say, if you were to stand back when he attacks, she might be able to do more damage with her blade. You can use them as that sort of thing. So there we go. A job, we can start to fill in all of this. A goal, they always need to have goals. In his case, it's to find the 3 dead soldiers and bury them. What are his quirks? Maybe he's a drunkard. What equipment does he have? And then we look at this. This is that likability that we were talking about, where it's basically, are they competent? Are they well-trained, highly trained, just trained, untrained, trained and stupid? I think our retired general here is going to be a highly trained genius. So he's going to be a tactical mastermind. Well, he's a retired general. Is he likable? I don't think so. I think he's maybe not very likable. Perhaps he's rude and he's gruff and you young adventurers don't have a clue about suffering. Something along those lines. And is he proactive? Does he watch the PCs and then come forward and say, you really should do this? Or does he sit back and not participate? We're going to give him good effort. We're going to make sure that he puts in effort to, I've secured rooms for you for tonight because I noticed you didn't have a tent with you. And you weaklings couldn't sleep under the stars, so head on over to the Fallen Hippogriff. It's yours for the night. So he's not likable. He just demeaned them. You weaklings can't sleep out in the wild. But he's very proactive and he's highly trained. When it comes to creating NPCs, I've got a whole bunch of videos on those you're going to look at that were done earlier in the year. But in short, of the 3 attributes, competence, likability, and proactiveness, if you want the PCs to like the NPC, if you want them to actually want to engage, they need to have 2 out of the 3 at a very good value and 1 that can be low down. You don't want them to have all 3, because if they have all 3, they're a genius, they're incredibly likable, and they're hugely proactive. Why aren't they the adventurers instead? So it's 2 out of 3. If they only have 1 out of the 3, the PCs might go to them, but they won't be interested in forming bonds or in really doing anything other than just using them for whatever it is that they provide. So 2 out of 3 is what you're aiming for. Then we can add in other things, coolness, what makes them cool, what are their fears, what are their desires. And then there's a whole block here on how to role play them, facial features, speech pattern, body type, smell, touch, what do they do when they're happy, and then there's room for your biography. So if you don't have enough information on your PC or your NPC, then I don't know what. There is a vast amount of data that you can input here. Do you need to input it all at the same time? No, you don't. You don't have to input it all at the same time. You can come back to it. You can continue working on it, which is what I love, absolutely love about World Anvil, is I can say go to articles and I can see what articles I need to work on, what articles have been published by looking at the checkbox here, what's available, what isn't available. And look at all of these articles that we've been adding in. This is not even half of the ones that I should have added in. There's so much more in here that we can add in. And I think I wrote some articles in the wrong World Anvil world, because of course you have access to multiple worlds. These are all the different worlds that I have access to. But now you can actually swap them across. You can transfer them across. It's a new feature that they've added in World Anvil, which is absolutely fantastic. So if you're like me and you're an idiot and you just start creating articles and you realize, oh, I'm in the wrong world, you can now fix that. Anyway, those are my thoughts and things on how I create NPCs of note, and so that I don't get bogged down or overwhelmed with so much information that I don't know where to even start. I look at those three things, making sure that the NPC is going to be useful. If they are, I add them in. Until next time, I wish you and yours the very happiest of campaign creation. What do you mean you didn't get enough screen time? I thought you got plenty of face time. I mean, they saw your face and your dome. I mean, they know who you are, Julian. Don't worry. You're not just a prop. You're not just a stand-in. You have value. You do. You really do. I liked what you did. I thought you put in a great performance as Skull. I subscribe to the fact that you were dead. I really believed that. So now, oh, is that the bell? Oh, we better go, Julian. We better go. So now I thought you were great. I really did. I thought you really pulled off Skull in hand. Really, really well. There's that bell. We should stop this conversation and head over there, because it's reminding us about what's coming up or what's come in, or something.